The cherry blossoms were late this year. Jin-woo noticed because Hana had mentioned it 3 times already, her gloved hand tucked into the crook of his arm as they walked the gravel path through Namsan Park. She was 8 months pregnant, moving with the careful deliberation of someone carrying precious cargo, and he matched her pace without thinking about it anymore. "Next week," she said, gesturing at the bare branches overhead. "The weather report says they'll bloom next week." Jin-woo nodded, only half listening. His phone had buzzed twice in the last 10 minutes, both times from Di-young, which meant something needed his attention. But Hana's obstetrician had been explicit: stress reduction, regular walks, normal activities. So here he was, pretending his empire could run itself for an hour on Sunday morning. "You're not listening," Hana said, but her tone was fond rather than accusing. "I am cherry blossoms next week." He squeezed her hand. "We'll come back. You'll be in Busan next week. Then the week after." She smiled at that, the expression transforming her face from merely pretty to something that still caught him off guard even after 2 years of marriage. Hana was good. That was the word that kept occurring to him, not beautiful or graceful or any of the things people usually said. Just good, in a way that made him want to be better than he was. His phone buzzed again. "You should answer it," Hana said. "I know you want to." "It can wait." "Jin-woo." The laugh reached him before he saw where it came from. It was distinctive, rich and unrestrained, the kind of laugh that made other people turn and smile even if they didn't know what was funny. He knew that laugh. His body knew it before his mind caught up, something tightening in his chest that had nothing to do with the morning air. Then he saw her. Naomi was sitting on a bench about 30 meters ahead, her head thrown back in genuine amusement at something one of the children clustering around her had said. 3 of them, 2 boys and a girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, all talking at once with the manic energy unique to young children hopped up on whatever they'd had for breakfast. She looked exactly the same. That was his first thought, irrational given that it had been 6 years since he'd last seen her. But her skin still held that deep warmth that had fascinated him. Her hair was still natural and cut close to her head, and when she moved it was with that same unconscious grace that had made him forget to breathe the first time he'd seen her across a hotel bar in Singapore. "Jin-woo," Hana's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Are you all right?" He should have turned around, should have steered Hana down a different path, should have pretended he hadn't seen anything. But one of the children, the little girl, had broken away from the group and was running directly toward them, her pink sneakers kicking up gravel. "Excuse me," she called out in English, her voice high and clear. "Mister, you dropped this." She was holding a black glove, his glove, which must have fallen from his pocket. The child skidded to a stop in front of him, breathing hard, her face lit up with the pride of good deed done. And Jin-woo found himself looking down into a small face that was somehow both completely unfamiliar and intimately known. She had his eyes, the exact shape and color, that particular deep brown that was almost black in certain light. "Thank you," he managed, taking the glove. His hand was steady. That surprised him. "Zoe," Naomi's voice carried across the distance between them. "What did I say about running off?" She was coming toward them now, moving quickly, one hand already reaching for the little girl's shoulder. And then she looked up, really looked at who her daughter had run to, and Jin-woo watched the color drain from her face. They stared at each other across 3 feet of gravel path and 6 years of silence. "Jin-woo," she said finally, just his name, flat and careful. "Naomi." Hana's grip on his arm had tightened. He could feel her looking between them, trying to understand what was happening, why the air had suddenly gone thick with something she couldn't name. "You two know each other?" Hana asked. Her voice was still pleasant, still friendly, but there was a question underneath the question. Naomi started. "Old friends," Jin-woo cut in. "From years ago, business associates." It wasn't technically a lie. They had met through business, even if that business had evolved into something else entirely, something that had consumed him for the better part of a year before he'd walked away from it. From her. "Oh," Hana relaxed slightly. "That's nice, small world." "The smallest," Naomi said, and there was something sharp in her tone that only Jin-woo would have caught. These are my children, Zoe, and over there, Marcus and Nathan. The two boys had wandered over now, flanking their mother with the instinctive protectiveness of children who sensed tension. They were identical, mirror images of each other right down to the cowlick above their left eyebrows. His cowlick, the one his mother had always tried to smooth down with water and gel, the one that never stayed flat. Triplets, Jin-woo said. The word felt strange in his mouth. Yes, Naomi's chin lifted slightly, that gesture he remembered, the one that meant she was preparing for a fight. We're visiting from New York, just for 2 weeks. Mommy, I'm hungry, Zoe announced, tugging on Naomi's jacket. You said we could get hotdog. In a minute, baby. You promised. The mundane domestic exchange gave Jin-woo a moment to think, to calculate. Triplets about 4 or 5 years old, which meant they would have been born roughly 5 years ago, give or take. 9 months before that would have been. The Singapore conference. The week they'd spent in his hotel room barely coming up for air. The week before he'd gotten the call that his father had had a stroke, that he needed to come home immediately, that the business, the family, couldn't wait anymore. The week before he'd chosen duty over desire and disappeared from her life without explanation. We should go, Naomi said abruptly. Come on, kids, say goodbye. Bye, Zoe waved enthusiastically. The boys just stared, already picking up on their mother's need to escape. Wait, Jin-woo said. The word came out before he could stop it. Naomi froze. What? He was aware of Hana beside him, of her confusion starting to shift into something else. How have you been? Really, you want to do this now? Naomi. I've been great, Jin-woo, just fantastic, living the dream. Her smile was all edges. Now if you'll excuse us, I have 3 hungry children and you have. Her eyes dropped to Hana's swollen belly, and something flickered across her face too quickly to read. You have your own family to attend to. She turned away, hurting the children in front of her, and Jin-woo watched them go. Zoe looked back once, waving again, and he found himself raising his hand in automatic response. Jin-woo, Hana said quietly. What was that? Nothing, like I said, old friends. Old friends don't look at each other like that. He turned to face his wife, this good woman who deserved better than the man she'd married, better than the life he'd pulled her into. It was a long time ago, before you. How long ago? 6 years. And the children are not my concern. The words came out harder than he'd intended. Whatever was between us ended before those kids were born. It has nothing to do with us, with our life. Hana studied his face for a long moment. Then she said, Those children had your eyes. Jin-woo's phone buzzed again, insistent, and this time he welcomed the interruption. He pulled it out, saw De-young's name and the message preview that read, Problem at the dock. Shipment seized. We have a leak. I have to take this, he said. Of course you do. He stepped away, pressing the phone to his ear, and let himself sink into the familiar rhythms of crisis management. But even as he listened to De-young explain how 3 million won worth of pharmaceuticals had just been confiscated by customs, even as he calculated who needed to be paid off and who needed to be silenced, a part of his mind was still back on that path. Watching 3 children who looked too much like him to be coincidence. Watching Naomi walk away from him for the second time. When he ended the call and turned back, Hana was sitting on a nearby bench, her hands folded over her belly, her face unreadable. I need to go handle something, he said. I'll have Yi-sung drive you home. She was beautiful, Hana said, not looking at him. And those children, Jin-woo, if they're yours. They're not. How can you be sure? Because I would have known. She would have told me. Would she, if you ended things the way I suspect you did? He had no answer for that. Instead, he made the call for the car, waited until Yi-sung arrived to escort Hana home, and headed for the dock where his latest problem was waiting. But that night, lying in bed next to his sleeping wife, Jin-woo found himself doing math in his head. counting backward from 5 years to that week in Singapore, to mornings tangled in hotel sheets and nights talking about impossible futures. To the morning, he received his father's call and made his choice. His phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Tomorrow, noon, Cafe Onion in Seongsudong. Come alone. N." Jin-woo stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. Then he set his alarm for 11:30. The cafe was too hip for his taste. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, baristas with elaborate tattoos pulling espresso shots like they were performing surgery. Jin-woo arrived 20 minutes early and took a corner table where he could watch the entrance. Old habits. His security team was outside, distributed across the street in patterns that looked random but weren't. He'd told them to stay invisible, but close. Naomi arrived exactly at noon. She was alone, scanning the room with the same caution he'd employed. When her eyes found him, something crossed her face, resignation, maybe, or determination. She wove through the tables and sat down across from him without preamble. "You came," she said. "You knew I would." "Did I?" She flagged down a server, ordered an Americano in surprisingly fluent Korean. When had she learned Korean? 6 years ago, you didn't come, you didn't call, you didn't send a single message. "My father had a stroke. I had too." "I know what happened to your father, Jin-woo. I'm not an idiot. I figured it out eventually." Her coffee arrived, and she wrapped both hands around the cup. "What I never figured out was why that meant you had to ghost me like I was some one-night stand instead of someone you'd spent every day with for 3 months. 3 months. Had it only been 3 months? It had felt like longer, like a pocket universe that existed outside normal time. They'd met in Singapore at an international trade summit, her there representing her consulting firm, him there supposedly scouting legitimate business opportunities, but really just looking for new distribution channels. She'd been smart enough to see through his cover story within a week and pragmatic enough not to care. "It was complicated," he said. "It was cowardice." The word hit harder than he expected. "My father was dying, the family business." "The family business," she repeated, and there was something bitter in her voice. "Is that what we're calling it? Jin-woo, I knew what you were, what you did. I didn't walk into that blind." "Then you understand why I had to choose." "I understand that you made a choice. What I don't understand is why that choice had to include erasing me from your life like I never existed." She took a sip of coffee, her hands steady now. "But that's not why I asked you here." Jin-woo waited. "They're yours," Naomi said quietly. "Zoe, Marcus, Nathan, all 3 of them, yours." Even though he'd known, had counted backward and forward and sideways trying to make the math work out differently, hearing her say it out loud felt like a physical blow. "You never told me." "I tried. Do you know how many times I called? How many messages I sent?" Her voice stayed level, controlled. "Every single one went unanswered. After 4 months, I stopped trying. I figured you'd made your position clear. I changed my number. When I came back to Seoul, everything changed. I had to. There were security concerns, people who wanted." He stopped. It sounded like an excuse even to his own ears. "I was pregnant, Jin-woo. Pregnant with triplets, which if you know anything about multiple births, you know is high risk. I was alone in New York, scared out of my mind, and the father of my children had vanished into thin air." She set her cup down carefully. "So forgive me if I don't have a lot of sympathy for your security concerns." "I didn't know." "And if you had, would it have changed anything? Would you have chosen differently?" The question hung between them like smoke. Jin-woo thought about that time, his father in the hospital, the vultures circling the family business, the rival families who saw opportunity in the old man's weakness. He'd come back to chaos and had to establish dominance immediately, ruthlessly. There had been no room for distraction, no space for a foreign girlfriend who would have been seen as a liability at best, a target at worst. "No," he said finally, "probably not." Something in her expression shifted, not surprise, but maybe respect for the honesty. "At least you're not lying about it." "Why are you here, in Seoul?" "My firm has a contract with Samsung, 6-month project, but I'm only here for the initial 2 weeks of setup." She paused. The kids are with me because my mother died 4 months ago and there's no one else to watch them. I'm sorry, the words felt inadequate. She never met them, you know. My father disowned me when I decided to keep them, said I was throwing my life away. Naomi's laugh was hollow. Maybe he was right. Single mother of triplets isn't exactly the career trajectory I'd planned. You kept them. Of course I kept them. They're my children. The fierce protectiveness in her voice reminded him of why he'd fallen for her in the first place, that core of strength that didn't bend. But I didn't come here to relitigate the past or make you feel guilty. Then why? Because Zoe has a heart condition. The words came out fast, like she'd been holding them back. She needs surgery. It's not immediately life-threatening, but it needs to happen within the next year. And the surgery, the specialists, the follow-up care, my insurance covers most of it, but not all. I'm looking at maybe $50,000 out of pocket, probably more. Jin-woo kept his face neutral. $50,000 was nothing. He'd spent more than that on a watch. What are you asking? I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you the situation. She met his eyes directly. I've managed for 5 years without you. I can manage this too. But yesterday when we ran into you and I saw you with your wife, pregnant, happy, building a legitimate life, I realized that you get to have that. You get to have the normal family, the simple joy of walking in the park on a Sunday. And my children, your children, they get to have me working 60-hour weeks and scrambling to figure out how to pay for the medical care that might save their sister's life. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Jin-woo. I learned that 5 years ago when the man I loved disappeared and I had to figure out how to raise 3 bobbies alone. She stood up abruptly. I'm not here for money. I make good money. I'm here because you deserve to know. Because maybe, somewhere in that complicated life of yours, you might want to know your children, or maybe not. Maybe it's better for everyone if you just go back to your pregnant wife, and your cherry blossoms, and your legitimate life, and we pretend yesterday never happened. Naomi, wait. But she was already walking away, moving through the cafe with purpose. Jin-woo sat frozen for a moment, then threw money on the table and followed her out onto the street. She was halfway down the block when he caught up. Stop, please. She turned, and he was startled to see tears on her face. Naomi never cried. Even when they'd fought in Singapore, even during their most intense arguments, she'd never cried. What do you want from me? She asked. You want me to say it's okay? That I understand. I can't do that, but I also can't. Her voice cracked. I can't keep carrying this anger. It's exhausting, so I'm choosing to let you go, again, for real this time. I want to help, with the surgery, with everything. I don't want your money. It's not about money. They're my children, you said it yourself. Biology doesn't make you a father. She wiped her face roughly. Being there makes you a father, showing up makes you a father, and you didn't show up. I'm showing up now. 5 years too late. A car pulled up behind them, one of his security team, ready to intervene if needed. Naomi noticed it, noticed the way the driver was watching them with professional alertness, and something clicked in her expression. God, I forgot. This is your world now, isn't it? The men with earpieces, the careful watching. What are you, Jin-woo? What did you become when you went back? He could have lied, should have lied. Instead, he said, what I always was, I just stopped pretending otherwise. And your wife, does she know? She knows enough. Enough, Naomi shook her head. Does she know about me, about the children? She knows I had a past. That's not the same thing. She looked at him for a long moment. You can't do this halfway. You can't be in their lives a little bit, or when it's convenient, or secretly. Children deserve more than that. They deserve everything or nothing, and I won't let you give them something in between. Then let me give them everything. The word surprised both of them. Jin-woo hadn't known he was going to say it until it was out, but once it was, he realized he meant it. These were his children. 3 small humans who carried his genes, who had his eyes and his cowlick and possibly his temper. He'd built an empire on the principle that you protected what was yours, that family was everything. How could he walk away from this? You don't know what you're saying, Naomi said. You have a wife, a baby on the way, a life that doesn't have room for the complications we represent. Then I'll make room. How? By telling your pregnant wife that surprise, you have 3 other children with another woman. By introducing the triplets to their new stepmother and explaining why Daddy wasn't around for the first 5 years of their lives. Her voice rose. Jin-woo, there is no version of this that doesn't hurt people. The best thing you can do is stay away. I can't. You already did, for 5 years. That was different. I didn't know. And now you do. And knowing changes nothing except making everyone's life more complicated. She pulled out her phone, pulled up something, then showed him the screen. It was a photo of the triplets, younger, maybe 3 years old, dressed in matching Halloween costumes. Little lions, all 3 of them. They were grinning at the camera, sticky with candy, completely happy. This is what you missed, every day for 5 years. You don't get to just walk in now because it's convenient or because you feel guilty. It's not about guilt. Then what is it about? Responsibility, honor, family. The old words, the ones his father had drilled into him. In my world, you don't abandon your own. Then where were you? The question came out raw. Where were you when I was on bed rest for 3 months because carrying triplets was destroying my body? Where were you when they were born 10 weeks early and spent 6 weeks in the NICU? Where were you for first words, first steps, first days of preschool? Where were you when Zoe got diagnosed and I had to sit in a doctor's office alone while they explained that my daughter's heart wasn't formed correctly? Jin-woo had no answer. Each question was a knife, precisely placed. You want to talk about honor and responsibility? Then honor the choice you made 6 years ago. Take responsibility for the life you built without us. Naomi put her phone away. We're leaving in 12 days. After that, we'll be 8,000 miles away and you can go back to your uncomplicated life. What if I don't want that? What you want stopped mattering the day you disappeared. She turned to go, then stopped. But if you mean it, if you really want to be part of their lives, then you need to figure out what that looks like. Not just for you, but for them. For all of them, including your wife and your baby. Because I won't let you hurt my children the way you hurt me. She walked away, and this time Jin-woo let her go. He stood on the sidewalk for a long time, watching the traffic flow past, the ordinary people living their ordinary lives. His phone buzzed, Hana, asking when he'd be home. Then another message from Di-young. The customs problem was solved, but they needed to talk about who might have tipped off the authorities. Business as usual. Jin-woo typed out a response to Hana, something about meetings running late, then called his head of security. I need full background on someone, he said. Naomi Williams, American living in New York. I want to know everything, employment, finances, medical records, associations, travel history. Everything. Yes, sir. When do you need this? By morning. He ended the call and got into the waiting car. As they pulled into traffic, his mind was already working through scenarios, calculating risks, planning moves. This was what he was good at, taking complicated situations and finding solutions. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure what the solution looked like. Or if there even was one. At home, Hana was in the nursery they'd set up, folding tiny clothes with methodical precision. She looked up when he entered, her expression carefully neutral. How was your meeting? She asked. Fine, productive. Liar. The word was soft but definite. Jin-woo stopped in the doorway. Hana. It was her, wasn't it? From yesterday, that's who you met. There was no point in lying. Hana was too perceptive, and he'd never been good at deception with her anyway. That had been part of her appeal, that she saw him clearly and chose him anyway. Yes, he said. And the children. Are mine. Hana carefully set down the tiny shirt she'd been folding. Her hands didn't shake. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were dry. I see, she said. And what happens now? Jin-woo expected tears. Expected shouting, recriminations, maybe the kind of cold fury that ended marriages. What he got instead was Hana walking past him out of the nursery, down the hallway to their bedroom, and sitting on the edge of their bed with her hands folded in her lap. Sit, she said. He sat. Tell me everything, Hana said. Not the version you think I want to hear, the truth. So he did. He told her about Singapore, about 3 months that felt like a separate life, about receiving the call that his father was dying and the empire was crumbling. He told her about changing his number, about cutting all ties because that was what survival required. He told her about yesterday in the park, about triplets with his eyes, about Naomi's anger and her daughter's heart condition. Hana listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Do you still love her?" she asked finally. No. The answer came easily because it was true. What he'd felt for Naomi had been real, but it belonged to a different person, a different version of himself that existed before responsibility crushed whatever softness he'd had left. That ended a long time ago. "But you did love her." "Yes. More than you love me." Jin-woo thought about Hana, kind, patient Hana who had married him knowing what he was, who had agreed to this life of careful appearances and dangerous realities. What he felt for her was different, steadier, built on choice rather than passion. "Different," he said, "not more different." Hana nodded slowly, processing. "And these children, you want to be part of their lives?" "I don't know, maybe. They're mine, Hana, how can I just—" "You already did, for 5 years." She said it without accusation, just fact. "So the question isn't whether you can walk away. You've already proven you can. The question is whether you should." "What do you think?" "I think," Hana said carefully, "that I married you knowing you had a past. I knew there were things you'd done, people you'd hurt. I made peace with that because the man I married was trying to be better than what he'd been. But this, Jin-woo, these are children, your children. That's not the past. That's the present. That's the future." "I know." "Do you?" She placed a hand on her swollen belly. "Because in 3 months, you're going to have another child. Our child. And that child deserves a father who is present, who isn't divided, who doesn't have one foot in another family." "I can do both." "Can you? Really?" Hana stood up, packing slowly. "Your world doesn't allow for complications. You've said that yourself. Every connection is a vulnerability. Every person you care about is a target. You've kept me isolated, protected, hidden away like something precious and breakable. And now you want to add 3 more children and their mother to that equation." She was right. Jin-woo could see the tactical nightmare unfolding. 3 children in New York, unprotected, with a mother who would never agree to the kind of security measures he'd imposed on Hana. Rival families finding out, seeing opportunity, using them as leverage. "I'll figure it out," he said. "Or you could let them go. They've survived 5 years without you. They'll survive the rest of their lives. And you can be here, fully here, for the child we're about to have." It was the practical choice. The safe choice. Everything Jin-woo had built was predicated on control, on limiting variables, on protecting what was his by keeping the circle small and tight. Adding Naomi and the triplets would shatter that carefully constructed fortress. But somewhere in the last 24 hours, practical had started to feel like cowardice. "I can't," he said. "I have to try." Hana looked at him for a long moment, and something in her expression shifted. Not anger, but resignation, or maybe just clarity. "Then I can't stay," she said quietly. The words took a moment to register. "What?" "I won't share you. Not like this. Not with another family, another set of children who will always be a reminder of the life you had before me." Her voice stayed steady, but he could see the effort it cost her. "I deserve better than being second choice. This baby deserves better." "You're not second choice." "Aren't I? Jin-woo, if you had known about those children 6 years ago, would you have married me?" The question was a trap, but also entirely fair. "I don't know." "Exactly." She moved to the closet, pulled out a suitcase. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. We both need time to think about what we want." "Hana, don't do this." "You already did it. I'm just responding." She started folding clothes into the suitcase with the same methodical precision she'd used on the baby clothes. "Maybe you can figure out a way to balance everything. Maybe you can be a father to 4 children by 3 different mothers, run your empire, and keep everyone safe and happy. But I don't think you can, and I won't wait around to watch you try and fail." Jin-woo felt something cracking inside his chest. "I love you." I know you do. In your way. She closed the suitcase, zipped it shut. But love isn't enough when it has to be divided into so many pieces that none of them are whole. She walked past him, and he let her go because what else could he do? Force her to stay? Lock her in a gilded cage and pretend that was marriage? His phone was already ringing. Yi-sung, ready to drive her wherever she needed to go, because Jin-woo's world ran with such efficient precision that even his wife leaving him happened on schedule. The apartment felt cavernous after she left. Jin-woo stood in the nursery, surrounded by tiny clothes and carefully assembled furniture, and tried to remember why he'd thought he could do this. Thought he could be normal. His phone buzzed. The background report on Naomi delivered as requested. He skimmed it. Employment history stable. No criminal record, financial situation decent but strained. Medical records for all 3 children. Zoe's diagnosis, the recommended surgery, the projected costs. There was a note at the bottom. Subject is scheduled to return to New York in 11 days. Flight is booked, non-refundable. 11 days to figure out what he wanted, what he could offer, what kind of father he could be to children who didn't know him. His phone rang. Di-young. We have a problem, Di-young said without preamble. The customs leak. It's worse than we thought. Someone inside is feeding information to the prosecutors. Handle it. Boss, this is serious. If they flip the wrong person. I said handle it. Jin-woo ended the call. For the first time in 5 years, the empire felt like a burden rather than a purpose. He'd built something powerful, something his father would have been proud of. But what did it matter if he was standing in an empty apartment, having lost his wife and never knowing his children? The next morning, Jin-woo did something he hadn't done in years. He went to the address Naomi had listed on her visa application, a serviced apartment in Gangnam, and knocked on the door. Marcus answered, or Nathan. Jin-woo couldn't tell them apart yet. Mom, the boy yelled, there's a man here. Naomi appeared in the doorway, hair wrapped in a towel, clearly just out of the shower. When she saw who it was, her expression hardened. What are you doing here? I want to meet them, properly, if that's okay. It's not okay. You can't just show up. Please. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Jin-woo wasn't someone who begged. Just an hour. Let me spend an hour with them. Naomi stared at him, clearly torn. Then Zoe appeared behind her brother, peering around her mother's legs. Are you the man from the park? She asked. The one I gave the glove to. Yes, Jin-woo said. I'm that man. Do you want to have breakfast with us? Mom made pancakes, but she always burns them on one side. I do not burn them, Naomi protested, but there was no heat in it. You totally do, Marcus or Nathan chimed in. They're like half black. Jin-woo looked at Naomi, saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of 5 years of doing everything alone. I could make pancakes, he offered. I don't burn them. You cook, Naomi sounded skeptical. My mother insisted, said a man who couldn't feed himself was useless. For a moment, he thought she'd refuse. Then she stepped back, opening the door wider. 1 hour, she said, then you leave. The apartment was small but meticulously organized. Shoes lined up by the door, backpacks hanging on hooks, a schedule on the refrigerator detailing every minute of their day. Jin-woo rolled up his sleeves and started making pancakes while 3 pairs of eyes watched his every move. Why are you making them different shapes? Nathan, he was pretty sure this one was Nathan, asked. Because food tastes better when it's interesting. Jin-woo flipped a Mickey Mouse-shaped pancake. What shapes do you want? A dinosaur, Zoe bounced on her toes. A car, Marcus demanded. A circle, Nathan said. Circles are efficient. Jin-woo found himself smiling. Circles are efficient, good thinking. As he cooked, the children peppered him with questions. What did he do? Where did he live? Did he have any pets? Why did he talk funny? He answered carefully, editing his life into something appropriate for 5-year-olds, and discovered that lying to children was harder than lying to adults. They had a way of seeing through deflection. Naomi sat at the small dining table, watching. Not interfering, but watching with an intensity that made him conscious of every word, every gesture. "These are good," Zoe announced around a mouthful of dinosaur pancake. "Mom, he doesn't burn them." I noticed. "Can he come back tomorrow?" The question hung in the air. Jin-woo kept his focus on the pan, flipping the last pancake. "He's very busy," Naomi said carefully. "He probably can't." "I can come back," Jin-woo interrupted, "if your mom says it's okay." 3 sets of eyes turned to Naomi. She looked trapped, cornered by her children's enthusiasm and her own complicated feelings. "We'll see," she said finally. After breakfast, Jin-woo helped clean up while the kids went to get dressed. Naomi stood at the sink next to him, washing dishes in silence. "My wife left me," he said quietly. "Last night, she said she can't share me with another family." Naomi's hands stilled in the soapy water. "Jin-woo, I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you because you need to know where I stand. I'm choosing this, choosing them, whatever that means. You can't just blow up your life because you feel guilty." "It's not guilt. It's," he struggled for words. "I've spent 5 years building something I thought mattered. An empire, a legacy, all the things my father said defined a man. But what does any of it matter if I don't know my own children?" "Pretty words," Naomi said, but her voice was softer now. "But children need consistency, Jin-woo. They need someone who shows up, not just when it's convenient or when you're feeling philosophical, but every day. Can you do that from Seoul while they're in New York?" "I don't know, but I want to try." "Trying isn't enough." "Then what is?" Before Naomi could answer, there was a crash from the other room, followed by crying. They both ran to find Zoe on the floor, Marcus standing over her looking guilty, and Nathan frozen in the doorway. "She took my toy," Marcus protested. "Did not," Zoe wailed. Jin-woo knelt beside Zoe, instinct taking over. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, still crying, and he picked her up without thinking. She was lighter than he expected, small and fragile in his arms. Her crying subsided into hiccups as she buried her face against his shoulder. "It's okay," he murmured, the words coming from somewhere deep and automatic. "You're okay." Over her head, he saw Naomi watching them, her expression unreadable. When Zoe finally calmed down, he set her back on her feet and turned to Marcus. "Did you push your sister?" Marcus's lower lip trembled. "She wouldn't give it back." "That doesn't make it okay to push. Apologize." "Sorry," Marcus mumbled. "To her, not to me." "Sorry, Zoe." Zoe sniffled, then nodded. "Sorry I took your toy." Just like that, it was over. The kids went back to playing, the crisis forgotten. But Jin-woo stayed kneeling on the floor, something shifting in his chest. "Your hour is up," Naomi said quietly. He stood, nodded. "Can I come back tomorrow?" "Jin-woo, please, I have 10 more days. Let me use them." Naomi looked at her children, then back at him. "Tomorrow, same time. But if you do this, if you start building a relationship with them, you can't just disappear again. They can't survive that twice." "I know." "Do you? Because I don't think you understand what you're committing to. These aren't business associates or soldiers in your organization. They're children, my children, and if you hurt them—" "I won't." "You already did, by not being there. And I forgave that because you didn't know, but now you know. Now there's no excuse." Jin-woo left the apartment with his head spinning. Outside, his security team fell into formation around him, and he realized how bizarre this new reality was, moving between worlds, from criminal empire to children's breakfast, from armed guards to dinosaur-shaped pancakes. His phone had 17 missed calls, the empire demanding his attention. But for the first time, he let them wait. That night, alone in his empty apartment, Jin-woo made a call to his lawyer. "I need you to draft some documents," he said. "A trust fund, 3 beneficiaries, I'll send you the details. I want it set up so they can't access the principal until they're 25, but the income covers all education, medical expenses, and living costs until then." May I ask who these beneficiaries are? My children. There was a pause. I wasn't aware you had children outside your marriage, sir. Neither was I until yesterday. Can you do it? Of course. How much are we talking about? Jin-woo thought about $50,000 for surgery, about 5 years of raising triplets alone, about all the mornings and nights and small moments he'd missed. 10 million, he said, US dollars. Another pause. That's a significant sum. It's not enough, but it's a start. He ended the call and sat in the darkness, thinking about Hana and her certainty that love divided wasn't enough. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was no version of this where everyone got what they needed. But he had 10 days to try. 10 days to figure out if he could be the father these children deserved, or if Naomi was right and the best thing he could do was walk away. 10 days until the choice became permanent. His phone buzzed one more time, a message from an unknown number. He opened it expecting Di-young or one of his lieutenants, but instead found a single line. Your wife didn't leave you. She's at Seoul National University Hospital. Room 407, you should come. Yi-sung. Jin-woo was already moving before he finished reading, his heart hammering against his ribs. He called Yi-sung, got no answer, called the hospital and was transferred 3 times before someone would tell him anything. She was admitted 2 hours ago, the nurse said. Premature labor. The doctors are with her now. The drive took 12 minutes that felt like hours. Jin-woo burst through the hospital doors, his security team scrambling to keep up, and found his way to the 4th floor. Outside room 407, Hana's sister stood with her arms crossed, her expression glacial. You have some nerve showing up here, she said. Is she okay? Is the baby? They're trying to stop the contractions. She's only 32 weeks. If they can't, her voice cracked. This is your fault. The stress, the shock of finding out about your other children. Let me see her. She doesn't want to see you. I don't care, she's my wife. That's my child. Hana's sister stepped aside, but her look promised violence if he made things worse. Jin-woo pushed into the room and found Hana hooked up to monitors, her face pale and drawn. I told them not to call you, she said when she saw him. Too bad, I'm here. He moved to her bedside, took her hand even though she didn't squeeze back. What happened? Stress, they think, or maybe just bad luck. The baby's heartbeat is strong, but if they can't stop the labor, Jin-woo, it's too early. 8 weeks too early. You'll be okay, both of you. You don't know that. I know that you're the strongest person I've ever met, and our child is going to be just as stubborn as you are. Hana laughed, but it came out like a sob. I shouldn't have left. I should have stayed and we should have talked more and… This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I was so angry and I wanted to hurt you the way you'd hurt me. Jin-woo pulled a chair close to her bed, still holding her hand. We'll figure this out, all of it, but right now you just need to rest and let them take care of you. What about your other children? What about… Right now, there's only you and this baby. Nothing else matters. It was a lie, but also the truth. In this moment, with Hana hooked up to machines and their child's life hanging in the balance, everything else fell away. The empire, the complications, even Naomi and the triplets, all of it became background noise. But even as he sat there, holding his wife's hand and praying to gods he didn't believe in, Jin-woo knew this wasn't over. In 9 days, Naomi would take his children and fly back to New York. In this room, his wife and unborn child fought against time and probability. And somewhere in Seoul, his empire was crumbling because for the first time in 5 years, Jin-woo wasn't there to hold it together. He'd wanted to protect everyone, to be everything to everyone. Instead, he was failing them all,